Have you ever stopped to think about what gives the cash in your wallet value? There is a carefully crafted illusion in place that we all have control over our own finances. But the truth is, we live in a world where governments print cash like it's monopoly money. And as long as we hold our wealth in dollar-denominated assets, we are all at risk. Think about the dollar. It's a fiat currency, fiat being government issued and decreed. It doesn't derive its value from any tangible asset or any intrinsic value. Any value it has is merely perceived. And while the dollar shares many qualities with true money, it's a medium of exchange, it's a unit of account, it's divisible, durable, portable, and fungible, it lacks one crucial characteristic: a reliable store of value. Every time a new dollar is printed, your existing dollar is worth less. This becomes even clearer when you compare the dollar, a fiat currency, to true money, gold and silver. There is a reason that gold and silver have held their value for thousands of years, and it's because there is a limited amount of it. It is a finite resource. You can't print more of it out of thin air the way you can with the dollar, the euro, or the yen. The people in power, they already know this. It's why they created the system in the first place. Originally, the United States was using gold, a gold-backed currency. But this created a problem for the government. It meant that there was a limit on how much they could spend. They said to themselves, well, this isn't gonna work. Gotta find a way to stop that. And they did.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
They made sure that over time we moved farther and farther away from gold so that everyone was using a fully fiat currency. This, of course, allowed them to print whatever they want, and it also allowed them to do a second, lesser-known thing, which is the quiet confiscation of wealth. Let me explain. Alan Greenspan, a famous former Federal Reserve chairman of 20 years, said it best, and I quote, "In the absence of the gold standard, there is no way to protect savings from confiscation through inflation." What he means by that is that as inflation happens, the way it's happening today, the way it's been happening for years as a result of government overspending, because of course, again, they can spend whatever they want because they made up the currency we're using. It's the savers who get punished. It's the savers who over time have their wealth chipped away at. And it's all right there in front of you if you know where to look. Since 1913, since the Federal Reserve's creation, we, the American people, have lost almost all of our purchasing power, over 95%. In the last 4 years alone, we've lost 25% of our purchasing power. And the wildest part is that this is not an accident. Alan Greenspan goes on to say, this is the shabby secret of the welfare status tirade against gold. Deficit spending is merely a scheme for the confiscation of wealth. Let that sink in. Deficit spending is simply a scheme for the confiscation of wealth. Every time more debt is added to that 35 trillion and counting, we are losing our purchasing power. Our dollars are worth less. This is why they say that wealth doesn't disappear. It merely changes hands. This entire process makes it easier for the elite, the mega rich, to stay wealthy and harder for everyone else to accumulate wealth. The system that we all exist in is not fair. It is actually rigged against us, and it's all about control. Greenspan finishes by saying, gold stands in the way of this insidious process. It stands as a protector of property rights. Why does he say this? Because they can't print more of it. They can't control it. Gold and silver has been protecting people's purchasing power for centuries. It's the reason why I'm always saying that everyone needs to make sure that they have a plan in place that involves gold and silver. Because if you don't, look at what's happening around you. There is no end in sight to government spending. Rates were just cut. This means that inflation will continue and your dollar will be worth less. If you are not positioning yourself so that your wealth is protected outside of their system, then you are going to get left behind. You are going to continue to have your wealth chipped away at. They love to tell you, work harder, work more, invest right. But what they don't tell you is that none of that matters if you're bringing in more dollars, but every dollar you're bringing in is actually worth less. This is a concept that the smartest people already understand. In fact, JP Morgan, the founder of JP Morgan Chase, famously said, gold is money. Everything else is credit. When he said that, back in the early 1900s, most currencies, most fiat currencies were still tied to a tangible asset such as gold. So if you had a paper dollar, it was essentially an IOU for convertibility to the underlying asset, in this case, gold. But what was the real true money? It was the underlying asset, gold. Everything else, all this paper currency, was just an IOU. It was credit. The people who held the underlying asset, the gold, those were the people who held real wealth and real power. The sad truth is, this process of taking away our wealth, our rights, our control and power is not going to stop. It is only going to continue to get worse. If you are concerned about that, if you already have a plan in place but you want a second opinion, or you don't even know where to begin, talk to one of our expert analysts. Click the Calendly link below and get a call set up today so that you too can be protected for what's coming next. And I know a lot of people out there, a lot of people are waiting. From conversations I've had with loved ones, they're waiting to see what happens next before they take action. Ultimately, any wealth you have protected in dollar-denominated assets is at risk of their continued confiscation of your wealth. That's the bottom line. So the longer you wait, unfortunately, the less you're going to be left with. And that's just the way that the system is set up. So again, I encourage you, talk to one of our analysts. They have decades of experience in helping people with exact situations like what we're talking about to make sure that you have a plan in place for your goals and that addresses your concerns so that you're protected against what's coming next. And as always, I so appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I'm Taylor Kenny with ITM Trading, your trusted source for all things gold, silver, and lifelong wealth protection. Until next time.